Musical Talk, the UK's independent musical theatre podcast. Welcome to another edition of Musical Talk. I'm Thos Ribbits, and yet again I'm thinking about what would happen if there was a typographical error on the printing of a poster for a well-known musical. We might end up with The Munich Man, presumably with a score by Irving Berlin. It would either be the best success or the best failure. Well, moving on, and swiftly, I think, it's time to talk about what we're going to be doing in today's episode of Musical Talk. And it is part 2 of that in-depth conversation with the tremendously talented songwriters Glenn, Clarke and George Gehm. Now, if you remember from last week, I was saying that I saw their fabulous show, The Extras Strike Back, at Edinburgh this summer. And I immediately thought the show was a 5-star show. It's a fabulous review, and there is a chance of seeing it in London in November. More details at the end of this programme. But not only did I enjoy the show for what it was, I also really was impressed by the quality of the work on display by George and Glenn. They're known professionally as Glenn and Gehm, and that's what you'll need to look for if you're looking for them online. But during the course of today's conversation, they will be Glenn and George, which are their first names. And Glenn and George write songs of such quality, with so many layers and such sophistication, that actually they're almost too good for what they need to be. But of course, that can never actually be true, and what it is a sign of craft. And I really wanted to get to talk to them to find out what it is that makes their writing partnership tick, and why they're really, frankly, just so good. Last week we heard the first half of that conversation, so this week we're going to be listening to the final part of that, and I do hope that you will enjoy hearing more from George and Glenn. But that's not all. They very kindly said that we can play some extracts of more of their songs, so let's lay out our stall for what we're going to get today. Well, as I've said, we've got that second part of the interview with George and Glenn, but on either side, introducing and concluding that, there'll be extended extracts from 2 of their songs. When we finish the interview, you'll be able to hear a kind of versus rivalry song called New Democracy, where 2 of the rebel leaders squabble over who should be in charge now that they've won. But to take us into that fabulous interview, let's hear Stephen Quinn, who was also part of the cast for The Extra Strike Back, singing the Wampa song. So come with me now to a very, very cold-looking cave on the planet Hoth.
Wampa Fest! Oh, Wampa Fest is very special because it only happens once every 300 years, and normally I'm alone. But this time, I've got a friend. I hung him up right by his feet. That's just the way we Wampas greet. And so I'll make some food and start the party mood for the Wampa, 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 Wampa. Wampa Fest, Hoth is rather cold. Wampa's gotta be bold when making friends. How you doing? So when he wakes up, I'll make him a supper that never ends. I'm just a friendly Wampa. I'm feeling that Wampa feeling. Wampa Fest is happening today. I should make sure that he's all right. I hope it's comfortable for him. He seems kind, with lots of charm. I'm sure he's nice. Won't do no harm. Arm. Wait, what's that in the snow? Oh wait, I need to go. Prepare for Wampa, 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 Wampa. Wampa Fest, I have to thaw my frozen course. Gently does it. No need for force. Oh wait, God, where's the wine? Oh, this is so divine. And the Wampa, 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 Wampa. Wampa Fest, I hope his feet are warm. Now he's out of the storm, cause I saved him. Oh yeah. I hope he likes to eat roasted tauntaun meat. I got nothing else. I'm just a friendly Wampa. and I'm missing an arm. A friend. Wampa Fest ain't happening today. Somebody get me some ice.
Can I take us back to your working relationship then?
Yes,
so
sure.
obviously the way you've described it, obviously you were talking about this rather fabulous, let's call it training, whereby you each had a project and it was music first and then it was lyrics first and then it was music first and then you connected again. When did you decide that actually you were going to make a partnership of it? Because up to that point it was a little bit, I contacted you when I needed something, a bit more ad hoc.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
when did you become George and Ira Gershwin?
Yeah, I think we sort of had this idea at the start of last year. So we thought, okay, what we do, we think we're funny. We think we can write music and silly songs and jingles, and we would like to do something. So we took to Instagram and TikTok, and we started this series, 1 Minute Musicals.
Yes.
Have you seen?
Well,
anything?
I've seen it written down.
Okay.
But also, I want to compliment you once again on. It's a good title.
Yeah.
Yeah. It catches. You've got a sense of a catch. Somewhere.
Yeah. So it was the idea that TikTok and Instagram reels are getting quite popular, and you see little jingles, and it'd be really nice to see where that takes us. And we had a lot of fun, and we would meet up every week or every 2 weeks, and we'd look what's been in the news, and we'd write a really silly song. I had a lot of fun orchestrating. I'd just get to we'd record it, and then George would go home and I'd orchestrate it, and then by the evening I'd be able to send it to George, and it was just all really nice. Now, to this day, I still believe, social media is all about luck and whether it gets seen and whether it goes viral or whatever, but I still believe those should have done better than they did, and I wish they did. However, that was the birth of, we started on Instagram, Clarke and George Gehm. It sort of rhymes, and we're sticking with it for now.
Yeah.
And from then, you say we've been doing things ad hoc, but the two of us would write together. I've not really ever been in touch with another lyricist and said, please will you write this with me? Whenever I wanted to write a song, particularly musical theatre, we have done it together. But it was when we started this idea of 1 Minute Musicals that was like, okay, let's actually try and start some sort of brand here. And it's been a lot of fun, and from then we were like, okay, let's stop this for now, maybe we'll do it another time, but let's start thinking of some show ideas, and then a few months later, let's do a Star Wars thing. So it's moved quite quickly for sure, and we haven't been Clarke and George officially for very long, and to me I still don't feel massively official with it. We're not a registered company,
not a brand yet.
No. But it's very nice to feel that we are writing together, and we will be writing together, and
it doesn't make you exclusive though, does it? Because you can go off and do other things.
Of course not. Well, you're
I'm auditioning at the moment in London, and I've had some a close misses, should we say? Some near misses. So I'm hoping to work professionally
as an actor and as a lyricist.
Yeah. So I think we're just kind of going with the flow and seeing what happens.
With the flow.
Yeah.
We have no immediate plans post Fringe as it is. We would like to have some immediate plans.
May I just say, speaking on behalf of all people who love crafted music, please do have some plans.
We would like to, and we would like to run into as many people opportunities as we can, but we take it as it goes. If one day George sends me a voice note and says, I've thought of a really good idea for a show, right, we're in, let's write another show.
I think we were talking about this the other day. We are both ready to write. We've loved this process. I think we both become stronger producers, and we've shown ourselves that we can do it. But we are looking forward to just getting back in the room, and even if it's not our next show, just writing something and getting back into that headspace.
Creative juices.
Absolutely sure.
I think they're definitely ready to start going. And look, there's ideas that we've had from the past that we still have some juice in. I think that we have some passion behind, and we're hoping at some point that the Fringe or wherever we go after this will end up meeting people, book writers or somebody who already has an idea for a show, that we can then study the material and then become as well known as we are with Star Wars on it, and then write from a place of passion from it. So we then have that structure rather than being like, oh, we've got this idea, but we don't know how it's going to end. So
I think it's really important to note that that is something that we haven't done. We've just talked about our stepping stones of where I've done the music and then lyrics. We haven't had an experience yet where someone has approached us and said, I would like you two to write music for this.
You're looking for a book writer, really, in a way.
I'd love to do that. I would love to do that.
And
as I say, we could you'd research, and if it was like, I don't know, if it was a historical figure or a book that you know,
make it a passion project. I can see that's how you sort of drive yourselves.
Yeah, it has to be something that we're involved, and I think that's where, when we don't have a book writer or we don't know where the story's going, the spark gets like dampened by.
I think the passion project is a really good way to put it, because when we do start something new, and when I say start something new, even if we'd started a new song, there will be times where I will be up so late just at the piano and playing, and it's not a chore. You're working, but it's not a chore because
Time flies, isn't it, when
right?
you're enjoying it,
You're so engrossed in the writing, and you are, before it's even there, you are so proud of it, and you are so happy to be doing it. I think it's a privilege and a pleasure to be able to do this. So I'm grateful for it every day, really.
Well, once again, we're back listening to you both. It's your passion for the creative side that's really in all its forms. But actually, that being in a room, not necessarily being in a room, but the getting it started, getting it built up. There's passion in you both, gentlemen, and it's not unfocused. That's the marvellous thing. You've both learnt and see how to channel it out of yourselves and into each other and beyond. May I explore your musical influences a little bit? And I'll tell you why I'm going to ask you this, because this is one of the many other things that's sort of leapt off the page at me, if that's the right word, left off the stage at me.
No sheet music, I don't know if you spotted that, but...
Well, I knew... That's when I know a composer's in the room. You see that periodically.
It blows my mind.
I know.
It blows my mind as well, because sometimes I'm like...
What now?
Oh, you know this, okay, yeah.
Let me put it this way. I have no skills whatsoever, but what I do have is a certain felicity for words. I adore music. I can't do it. So what you do is alchemy.
Great. That's lovely.
So forgive me, but I do think you're both Nobel winners in the fields in which you're sitting. But your musical influences, in the broadest sense, are both lyrics and melody, for want of a better phrase, because sitting there sort of listening with one ear to the show as the show and listening to the other ear with the thinking, the craft, actually held onto my ears there to show you what that might have looked like.
Yeah.
I thought that I could detect songs which came from the full range of musical theatre and elsewhere from the entire 20th century as well as the 21st century. So I think there's a number which feels very 1940s.
Yeah.
The Wampa Party, I think it is, reminds me very much of that kind of feel and tone. Then there's another song I seem to remember that felt very... I thought it could be taken out as a 20s number. It was almost a...
Roger.
Yes, it felt to me 20s. There were other periods and flavours and tastes and goodness knows what. I thought, because it's so easy to do a show which is all in the style of Six, it could all be contemporary, and that's fine too, but goodness, everyone's doing it. I think you betrayed your influences by, I don't mean betray in a negative sense, I mean you revealed your influences as better. But what are they, please? Okay. And you can say, no, I've never listened to anything before 2000.
No, for sure. I mean, if we're talking influences for this show particularly, as I said...
But I'm quite happy to go into your broader, where are your historic passions both, and then what fed into the show.
Okay, let's start with that. So for me as a musician, both of my granddads played the piano. I was very lucky.
Together?
Not together. One of them I unfortunately never met, but he was apparently a fantastic by ear pianist.
Oh, right.
My other grandpa taught me to play, and I went through the classical grades. Was terrible at sight reading. Failed sight reading every single grade because I just couldn't. It was through ear, and I have a distinct core memory of learning to play Furley's Beethoven. Yeah. And instead of just playing the melody, I was adding chords as if it was like a jazz standard. Yeah. And I went to school and I joined jazz ensembles and I started learning jazz, and at this point I was like 15, 16 and I hadn't actually really explored the world of musical theatre at all at that stage. And it wasn't until a couple of years before moving to university that I really started listening to musicals and being wowed. And I say the word wowed because I think musical theatre has that. I sometimes sit in a theatre and I feel like I'm hit by the music, And that, for me, is my influence. I want to do that to other people.
Hot oomph.
Right? And it's not, there's other genres that do that for sure. But I think because of you're stimulated visually, you're seeing it happen, and you're emotionally connected to the people who are doing it. But the orchestra or the band or whatever is just hitting you in the face with this amazing music. That, for me, is my influence, and I'm always trying to find new ways to do that. It's interesting that you say about the full 20th century, because I'll be totally honest, that wasn't on my mind when I was writing the show. No, I think, as I said before, I wanted to take influences in a very Book of Mormon way from individual musicals, and I think because we visualised the characters, we visualised the setting, and then we visualised the setting of the song and merged it together. So, for example, the Wampa song is in a dark cave and it's all snowy, but what if it's like this classic cabaret? You can imagine the cigarettes and the drinks and the cocktails and the lights and the everything, so that you just sort of had a feel for it. And I mean, the melody for that, da 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 da, be our guest, be our, it is literally right.
Yeah.
So
I just need to interrupt you briefly
go
here,
ahead.
because I'm also getting. I think I mentioned this when we met briefly. I'm not as a lift, and clearly not as a lift, but there were flavours of "There Ain't Nobody Here But Us" chickens.
Yeah, you did say that.
Particularly the wampa thing. So I was getting 1940s flavours, 30s, 40s flavours.
Yeah,
very
for
strongly
sure.
off of that.
And
nothing wrong with that.
No, well, look, the chord sequence, especially in the chorus, is very jazz standard, and I'm taking it.
An accidental 30s, 40s hit, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I did grow up doing a lot of jazz, so a lot of chords and stuff.
Yes. Sorry. Can I
go ahead.
can I explore the jazz thing? Because some of the great composers of musical theatre, the Gershwins, instantly transferable to jazz. And indeed, I got into the Gershwins by a number of routes, but they've been covered by jazz players for years.
Well, I always say I think jazz has a place in all music, because there is so much you can take from it and put in anywhere else. Just as simple as, okay, I've got a C chord, well, why not add a C major 7? Try explaining that to a classical pianist or whatever.
Or to me, but yes.
Right, okay, well, maybe some people know. But just adding things, and its flavours and its passion, and that's where jazz comes from, right? It is emotion. And I think that is very raw and core to musical theatre, because, as I said before, you are emotionally connected. So I think it is extremely injectable, it's a weird word, but injectable to put into the music for musical theatre, and even in the songs that aren't jazz, on chord extensions and
but influences can be there,
yeah, for sure, exactly.
Or structural influences, I suppose. If you can have structural influences in jazz, but
are you about to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the characters as well. Like, I think they influence. Like Wampa. The Wampa came from this, like, oh my god, like I've got someone and
it shapes the music,
and that what is that
genre
in music? What does that character need to carry that? And like Roger, one of the stimulus that we gave Stephen in rehearsals was, imagine a 50-year-old New York woman sitting at the end of the bar with a martini, almost like Ladies Who Lunch.
Yes.
Like,
I was going to say Lane Stritch. That's where I'm coming from.
And she's talking about like the love of her life, and then all of a sudden it just snaps, and she changes into this like, and then one day, then she's like splashing her martini.
It was Funny Honey from Chicago. Like, it was exactly that, and we really stretched that and used that in the anger towards the end. I mean, the melody for that, When You Wish Upon a Star, that's how it started. And then we were like, okay, let's make this, what can we turn this into? Make it a bit jazzy, and make it, you can sort of hear the cymbals in the background, and that was an early one. That one really wrote itself. That was a really raw one for sure.
And what about you, George?
I was introduced to musical theatre because it was like a October half term, I think. I was 7, and my mum recorded 2 movies one for me, one for my sister, just to keep us entertained.
Yes.
And my sister's movie was Splash, the one with Tom Hanks and the mermaid.
Oh, yes.
And mine was West Side Story.
Oh,
and
good choice.
Yeah, and I
Just heaven.
Yeah, I know,
Ooh.
and I just absolutely fell in love with it, and I started
Clicking around town.
Yeah. Started singing lessons, and
that bug really did take off from that.
Yeah, and I was in like the church choir, and I sang, and I realised that I had a way with it,
challenge,
shall we say? Yeah. Yeah, and then musical, as Glenn said, musical theatre like does something to my spine, like when it's good.
Yes.
And there are like some good old musical theatre songs, like Defying Gravity is one that always gets me, just that. And I remember I was 15 years old and I went to see Wicked, and I can remember the sensation of like when that build happens and she like goes into the air, like I could feel the blood in the back of my head, like I was it's giving me goosebumps now.
Yeah.
Like I can't put it into words. It's something, call it spiritual. There's something,
an existential moment.
Yeah, something.
It's an emotional connection to the moment, the music, the visual, and just physically it joins with you.
Yeah, and like somebody is like so like. You're like, people sometimes question like, well, musical theatre, like why are they singing? It's because they've got it's because they can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Like the emotion is so strong that they have to use this medium of music that we understand it like in terms of chords and stuff, but like what music actually is and where it comes from and all of that, they have to use this medium to tell their story. And I'm a sucker for like a button, I'm a sucker for on the beat, snap off, because I think that moves people, and you get dragged along in a song. And so I kept singing, and I started doing musicals at school, and then I ummed and ahed about training, and I ended up going to Brunel, and there was an art centre alongside Brunel that I auditioned for and got a scholarship for. And we ended up just having a strong year of people. So I got to do, we did The Producers, we did Parade, and we did Into the Woods. So like we got some heavy hitting musicals. Like it was brilliant. And then I did that classic umming and ahhing of, I worked in a restaurant for quite some time, and I was scared, I was nervous, I hadn't trained, I didn't know whether like I had the training, I had the belief in myself. And finally I kind of realised that I was like looking for work that meant that I would be like doing what I really want to be doing in my part-time. Like I was looking for a 9 to 5, and I thought, you know what, just go to drama school, like do it. And it was one of those moments, everything fell into place. I got into the RCS.
It was the right decision.
And so shows like that, like your Wicked, Wicked was a big for me. Rent, I know Rent can divide opinion, but Rent was while everybody else was listening to My Chemical Romance, I was listening to Rent because it was my teenage angst musical, and I love it to this day. Like Jonathan Larson had this way of like, I say to you, like he's got that like New Yorky vibe is what I call it, that New York piano-y, like conversational, lyrical, like it feels so unbelievably human, and I love it, and I will always love it, even though the end is controversial. So they're kind of my influences. Your Phantom of the Operas, your Sondheim as well, obviously for his lyrics.
I was assuming that.
Into the Woods is, the more and more you listen to it, the more and more you pick up on.
Yeah, you get into the Woods.
I think for you, and this goes back to the point we made earlier about songs for performers and songs that are written and they feel good to perform. And I think that is you when you're writing lyrics. You might have a lyric that is good and it works, but when you're singing it and performing it, and that might be because of the melody, but when you're singing it and performing it, because you know musical theatre, you have performed musical theatre, you've done shows, you've seen so much and you know so much. I think it is that knowledge paired with that feeling that you get when you watch Defying Gravity for the first time. It is that once you have that, that's the lyric.
It like fuels it, yeah.
And that is something that I would love to get better at. I would love to, and I feel like I am. Like lyrically,
Yeah,
I definitely have improved. But I think for you, when you're happy with the lyric is when we have finished the song and we're playing it and going through it, and you're going, no, don't like that. When you were writing it half an hour before, you were really taken by it.
It's a different hat almost.
Then when it comes to sitting down and playing it and singing it and hearing George singing it, I'll have similar thoughts. I'm think like I don't like that. It doesn't sound. So I think it's the performer within you that writes the lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, Lava
That's
Farmers
such an
is
interesting thing. Sorry, do carry on.
Lava Farmers is the prime example of that. Do da da lava farmers are much too far to flow the lava and not the stuff, even when it is long. That is just so nice to perform. Like that's just it almost goes into this weird like country place in your voice. Like, and there's something indescribable about why that works. And I would say that it's probably the one that stays in people's heads the most. People, and it's the last song, so it's the one that they hear last. But
it's the freebie at the end.
Yeah, it's the one that people really, really hear, and I think that's so. I think that's so interesting that is the one that like sticks in their head because of how that was how it was formed. Of Glenn playing these chords and the music and the lyrics basically just like being made at the same time, and I love that. Like,
that was probably the most the organic one out of the lot.
Yeah,
that was the one that wrote itself because at each 5-minute interval, one of us had something. That not only just to give to the conversation, but something that stayed in, something that was locked in every 5 minutes.
And I even like with Glenn in that one, like that's where like you've like peppered so much of like. So many nods, so many Easter eggs. We don't mind if people don't get all the Easter eggs. We love it when they do. But like, because I got ba ban dan dan dan. That's like that's Battle of the Battle of the Hero.
It's the pre-chorus is Battle of the Heroes from Star Wars.
I just that's. I think that's just where we kind of like join together. And
so this tells me. By the way, peppered. Used the word peppered. Such a beautiful word. Because pepper enhances a flavour. That is exactly right. Peculiarly, unexpectedly. But what I'm hearing here is actually that you're both. This is why I keep using the word craft. Keep coming back to this. This is more than just writing music. It's more than just writing lyrics. Mm-hmm. It's more than just writing songs, which are music and lyrics. It's writing them with depth, with performance in mind, with delivery. That which takes us back to engagement with those of us who are listening. Actually, it's 360-degree songwriting, and not everyone does that. In fact, I would go so far as to say only the best do that.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, what's the point? Like, you could be the best songwriter, you could be this brilliant songwriter, and then you hand it to a tenor or you hand it to a soprano, and they're like, "This is uncomfortable to sing. Like, I don't like singing this song," and that's important, right? And of course, if it's a song that's about being uncomfortable or whatever, you can use that. But I think it's important to write the song so the song can live, not just write the song and be like, well, technically it's this and this and this. You want the song to breathe and you want it to live and grow. And
it is organic in that sense, isn't it? Like a child.
While we're writing, I have these moments where I'm like, this isn't how I want it to be, this is too simple, this is too four-chordy or whatever. And I think in a similar way, just sort of as we're doing it, as we're performing it, I'm thinking, no, we need a modulation here. Verse 2 can't just be the same, let's just nod it up, or let's do it extra 4 bars or something. And it is the word peppered. I would always use the word decoration, and I think when I'm orchestrating, I'm thinking, what decoration can I add here? And that might be an instrument or a motif or whatever, but I think that's very present in both the lyrics and the music. We think, okay, there's verse 1, but what can we enhance it with? And is that verse 1 or is that verse 2? It is this melody that we've got for the verse, is it actually a chorus that if we knock it up 5 tones could be a belt of a chorus? All these questions, and I think we've used the word organic use the word trust. We have a lot of trust in each other, and we're also very happy to do it. We just love it, and I think that is the key, right? Just enjoying it, and really having faith and belief. Not that it's just good, but it's, as you say, performable, and you can imagine it, you can see it, and you can see it hitting you in the face, and that is, for me, what I want to do.
It doesn't feel
you
like
want to be hitting the face.
I want to hit people in the face with my music.
It does not your piano.
No.
It never feels like work. And this whole week,
lovely.
we've been flying, and we've been pulling 14-hour days when we first got up here. And never once did I stop and be like, God, I just really want to go home. I was grateful to go home,
Yes.
but it was just, this is what this is, although it's a difficult path,
The arts are, though.
Yeah, they always are. It's a difficult path. This feels like a bit of the door opening and letting a bit of the light in that's saying, like, this is viable. This is that you can do it.
this.
Yes.
And that's lovely. And I think we're gonna, whatever happens next, I think this is gonna will serve as a springboard, which I think it kind of always was meant to be.
That's what we wanted for it, yeah.
Well, I can only now thank you, because you take me on to the next part of the conversation, which is actually what next for Extras, and what next for Glen and Gehm, which is your professional title.
Well, what is next for Glen and Gehm? I would say really does depend on the immediate what is next for the Extra Strike Band.
Yes.
And I believe that though half the ball is in our court, we are very much, we're waiting to see who is seeing it and who is interested in
You would
us.
welcome inquiries.
We would welcome inquiries.
Yeah.
for
Not
sure.
just, and this. Let's just make this plain, because this isn't just potentially for you two to perform it, but potentially for other people to
for
perform
sure.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be
You're-
amazing.
Yeah.
I think what's next for Glen and Gehm really does relate to that. We would love to show that we can do other stuff that isn't just silly comedy. And we've mentioned that the music and the craft, the words you use, does extend further than the cabaret that the show is. However, we have written loads of other songs and loads of other genres, and I would love to be able to show the world that as well. Equally, the Extra Strike Back too. Why not? Like, there's so much other Star Wars
One
stuff.
feels that it's beckoning, don't you?
Right, and there's other stuff. There's Marvel, Lord of the Rings. The idea is there. I feel like we're in this really positive place where we can choose based on the path that is being put in front of us.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, we want, obviously, this show to have the life that it will have. If that life isn't very long, then it's not very long, and as you say, like, it's a step on the road. But I think we want to write more. We want to workshop things. We want people to, if people have books that they want musicals, like music written for, we want to branch out to that. Obviously, there's big goals, there's big things, but they're big things for a reason, and they take time. And
But they're excellent ambitions.
yeah,
One must have them.
we know where. I think we know what we could do if things line up and we work hard. And again, it's not really working hard because we enjoy it.
That's it. It would be lovely to be able to do the thing you love and that be your life, right? I mean, that's what everyone wants. And especially in the arts, it's not easy.
It isn't.
And it's not necessarily viable, definitely not immediately. But
you are pens for hire, and that's the important thing.
we are
100%.
ready and we are hungry, is what I would say. And this, even though we've been here, 9 days, and we were doing the show another week, has it just intensified my appetite more. Like, I want it more now. I want to do more writing. I want to do more performing, whether it's this show or another show, whether it's at Edinburgh Fringe, whether it's in London, whatever. I want to do it. That's what's next for Glen of Glen and Gehm.
Yeah.
Well, Gehm might be in the West End.
Well, maybe.
And I hope you are.
Well, I was going to say, like, look, Lin-Manuel Miranda's done it, where he's written his own shows and put himself in them. So,
Yeah.
look,
It can
happily.
will happen.
Would you cast me? I'm not sure.
Maybe in the pit. Maybe in the pit.
The pit is better than a pit.
That's so true.
Well, let me tell you what I'd like. I'd love to see you in cabaret anytime, because actually there's, even in this conversation, there's a beautiful chemistry, but actually you do know each other. You know, you said this at the beginning, you know each other very intimately as, you know, as professional writers, and it comes across, you know, you come across as friends and professionals, and on stage you come alive. The show was 5-star, brilliant, simple, you know, solid gold. I would love to see you in cabaret. I would love to see any book musical that you either wrote yourselves or were writing with others. To be honest, I think I'd be very interested to hear any more about what you both do. So, what is the best way of contacting you? Do you have a website? Do you have? How can these eager producers find you both?
We have an email address at the moment. We don't have a website yet, but the email is Glenn and Gehm at.
Spell it, please. Would you mind?
Yeah.
GLENN.
Yes, bad boy. 2 N's.
Yeah, 2 N's. And Gehm, GEHM.
For mother.
Yeah.
And the and is an and not an ampersand.
It's an and, the word AND. At gmail.com.
Yeah.
So we'll do that again. Spelling it.
GLENNANDGEHM at gmail.com. That's our email. We're predominantly using social media, which is Instagram, which is Glenn_and_Gehm, spelt the same as the email. We're on Twitter and Facebook and TikTok, but I feel like we're reachable.
Oh yes.
So, you know, people message us.
Yeah, just drop us a message.
And we're happy to talk, to meet up for a tea or a coffee and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I hope people will, because I would love to hear more of your work, gentlemen. It is as simple as that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
Brilliant conversation. You've been so honest and frank and enjoyable. I've said it before, I'll say it again. My privilege is to listen and talk to creative people, and so I'm absolutely bursting at the seams. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
See you again in the West End, perhaps.
Maybe. Hopefully. Crossed.
There's something fishy about that, Mothman. Okay, here we go. Time to go to school. Wars aren't won on battlefields, but in the field of politics. And I know you're in the mix, but you haven't got the skills. You're a wartime leader, but the galaxy is tired. And it's time that you retired, with those weary, saggy gills. Now I really don't mean to goad, but can you really carry the load? We need a new democracy, with my class and modesty. We'd know how you'll see how I'll make the financial sector grow. We need a fresh new galaxy, someone with long-term memory. If you're Chancellor, you'll be back in a war before we know. Sure, they'll clap until they wake up and realise it's a trap. That's a very reductive impression of me, Mothman. It's my turn. You've never held a blaster or led the charge of war, always locked behind closed doors, making deals we never see. You politicians, well, you're all one and the same. Hey, why not change your name? How about Mon Palpatine? History will always repeat, and when it does, I'll command the whole fleet. We need a new democracy with Akbar's best security. With me at the helm as Commander-in-Chief, see how we thrive. We need a safe new galaxy, someone who's fought with bravery. If you're Chancellor, then we open the door to our demise. So they'll clap until they wake up and realise many Bothans died to make you Chancellor.
Musical talk. Well, there we are. New Democracy. One of the songs by the super talented songwriting team of Glenn, Clarke and George Gehm, who write professionally as Glenn and Gehm. And those songs came from their musical review, The Extras Strike Back, subtitled A Musical Tribute to the Forgotten Heroes of Star Wars. And, as I said at the beginning of this programme, rather splendidly there's a chance to see it, because it's being performed on Friday the 3rd of November at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern in the early evening. The website says doors open at 6 p.m. with the show starting at 7 p.m. And if you want to find out more or book, you can do so by going to that website, www.vauxhalltavern.com. And do keep your eye out for other performances of the Extras Strike Back, because George and Glenn are very keen to carry on performing that. And perhaps if you'd like to help them do so, by which I mean if you have a venue that needs a booking, then you might want to contact them. And indeed, George and Glenn are also open to be contacted on songwriting inquiries. So if you need a song or songs, or if you have a book for a musical that needs an input, then do contact them. As you heard, they're very keen to be involved, and they really do turn these things into passion projects. And if the quality of their work is anything like what they produce for the Extra Strike Back, you won't go wrong. The best way of contacting them is on their contact email address, as you heard. That's glennandgehm@gmail.com. But because of some interesting spelling options, I'm going to spell that for you. GLENN, that's a double N, ANGGEHM for mother, @gmail.com. But you can also find Glenn and Gehm on Instagram, Twitter, as it used to be known, Facebook and TikTok, not to mention other socials undoubtedly. Talking to Glenn and George was a real delight. Seeing their show, The Extras Strike Back, was another real delight. But realising that there is a fabulous new songwriting partnership, which I'm absolutely certain is going to go places, in this galaxy, but perhaps others far, far away as well, was the greatest delight of all. I think Glenn Clarke and George Gehm are, together and apart, real talents, and I look forward to seeing what they do next. Keep an eye out for them online. Well, that brings this episode of Musical Talk to an end. There may be prequels, there may be sequels, there may be spin-offs, but probably only if the Disney Corporation fancies investing in Musical Talk, which I don't see happening anytime soon. So we shall wend our own way under our own steam, and steam is the one thing that this episode has just run out of, so I'm going to bring it to an end. Don't forget to join us again next week, or whenever, for another episode when we'll be talking about another show. The wonderful thing about Musical Talk is, as a magazine format, you never know what we're going to be discussing next. So it only remains for me to release you back into the wilderness. I shall open the window, usher you out, and with a cry of "Fly, my beauties, fly," I shall say goodbye. In fact, I just did. Goodbye. This episode of Musical Talk, edited and presented by Thos Ribbits. Copyright Musical Talk 2023. Except for the songs, where the copyright remains with Glenn and George. And my enormous thanks go to them for allowing me to use their songs in this episode. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk and listen to past episodes, go along to our website www.musicaltalk.co.uk or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and follow us on the usual social media networks like Facebook, Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter. And if you want to follow me on the latter, you can. At Musical Talk Thos.
Yeah, because I mean, like, we've got people, like friends who have come and seen the show, and they've been like singing the songs with us, like when they've met up with us, and that's really, really like
even like a few days later, they've still got it in their heads, which means a lot. And it's not always the same song. It's sometimes Bob and Gary, it's sometimes Wampa, it's sometimes Trashworm.
And we've not like given them, like they've not got any recordings or anything, so it's just
they picked it up organically.
Yeah, just from where they've come to see the show. They've just
The Glenn and Gehm songbook really burnt itself into people's hearts.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah.